What's going on, everyone? Scott here. Welcome back to the channel. So, Michigan State basketball returns home from their two-game West Coast road trip after going 2-0 on that. Returns home to the Breslin Center on Saturday afternoon to face off against the Maryland Terrapins, 12 o'clock on CBS. Now, Maryland on the year coming in 8-11 overall and 1-7 in the Big Ten Conference. And looking at their schedule over the course of the season, their non-conference, they had a tough loss to Georgetown, second game of the year. They did beat Marquette earlier in the year, UNLV as well, but had big blowout losses to Gonzaga and Alabama, allowing over 100 points in both of those games. And then their Big Ten schedule as well, their one win against Penn State at home. Just 2 games prior to this. Some common opponents so far. They lost at Iowa. They lost that one by 19. In Iowa in that one. They did play, not a common opponent, but they played Virginia as well. That one, they kept it kind of close. It was only an 8-point loss at Virginia. Oregon, they lost by 10. Indiana lost by 18 in that one. USC, they lost by 17. They lost by 17 in that one. Penn State, as we said, they actually won that one by quite a bit. They won that one by 23. So definitely been a struggle so far for Maryland on the year. But as we know, there's no easy game in the Big Ten. Especially, Michigan State handled the West Coast road trip pretty well. But, you never know coming back. Obviously, they played that late game on Tuesday. So then you're, getting back and everything. And, you got a couple days prep for this one. For a 12 o'clock game here on Saturday. But before we do jump into the game, if you could just hit that like and subscribe button down there. We'll have more Michigan State basketball content on the channel, so just make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a video. So we'll jump in here with Maryland. They have 3 guys averaging double digits. Start with Pharrell Payne for them. About 18-7, really solid overall from them, from him. Overall on the year, big forward for them, doesn't step out, hasn't attempted a 3 on the year. However, for him, he has not played since the middle of December, so don't have the full injury report on that one. Let me see if I can find that here real quick. And from what I could find, no updates on that one, but hasn't played since, mid-December. But, clearly in the 10 games he's played, he's been their best player. Next up, David Coit. About 15 points a game for him, which is about 39% from 3. Solid volume as well. They're leading 3-point shooter, both in makes and attempts on the year. Darius Adams, you might remember, a Michigan State recruiting target at one time, was committed to UConn at one point, decommitted, went to Maryland, but he averages about 12 points, about 4 rebounds on the year. Then you go into Solomon Washington on the wing. He's about 9.8, about 10. And about 10 rebounds as well. Solid forward for them. Elijah Sanders, about 9 points. You get about 9 points from Andre Mills as well. Miles Rice is definitely a name that you probably remember. Was at Indiana last year, Maryland this year, transferring over. But he gets you about 6 points a game on about 37% from 3. Doesn't shoot a whole lot though. But when you look at Maryland overall, 74 points per game. On the year, about 36 rebounds. That's not horrible. 11 assists per game, about 5 steals, about 3 blocks. They turn it over about 13 times, a little bit on the higher side. They only shoot at 41% from the field. They shoot about 74% from the free throw line. Solid enough overall, and about 33% from 3 overall. Now, looking at some other things. Here for Maryland, before we jump to the Michigan State side of things here, they're 344th in assist to turnover ratio. We talked about that. They don't average a lot of assists overall per game. Jeremy Fears is close to averaging what they average. They average, like we said, about 10.6, so about 11. Jeremy has always been in the mid-8s to the 9s. This year, fluctuating a couple games, but don't get a lot of assists, and they turn it over kind of on the higher end. So 344th assist to turnover ratio. Their bench scoring 289th in bench points. They don't get out and run either. 349th in fast break points. That's only about 6 per game. And when we look at their overall tempo, they're middle of the pack, 177th overall. They're 68th in 3-point attempts. They get up quite a bit of 3-point attempts. It's about 27 a game, but they're middle of the pack when it comes to 3-point percentage and makes. They're 232nd in 3-point percentage, so maybe on the back half of the middle half, if you would. 189th in turnovers forced. They force about 12 a game. They're 249th with about 13 turnovers a game, as we talked about. So that's where you look at things for Maryland and for Michigan State in this one. Obviously, Jackson Kohler struggled on that West Coast trip. It's no secret he struggled getting the shot going. He was able to make a couple plays inside in both of the games, but definitely in the Washington game, he only had 2 points in the Washington game. So I definitely think one of the more important things of this game, or I'm sorry, the Oregon game, he only had 2 points in that one, but I do think that is one of the more important things for Michigan State is to get Jackson Kohler back going, especially over the next 2 games before you move into next Friday's game against that school down the road at home. You got to get Jackson's been your best scorer all year. We saw Jeremy over the last 3 weeks, kind of pick his scoring up, and that's definitely been a boost and something Michigan State needs. But we need Jackson to get back to scoring, hitting those 3-pointers. I mean, he was over 50% going into this West Coast road trip. He comes in now coming back home at about 47%, which is still absolutely incredible. But, want to and need to get him back rolling. Kurt Tang, I know there was a viral moment, last game from the huddle about, Izzo saying that he couldn't guard his mother, Izzo's mother, besides the Oregon game. But the games leading up to that over the last couple weeks, I thought Kurt has been playing really well, especially on the offensive side of the ball and then getting rebounds and whatnot. Yes, the defense still has, some ways to go, but Izzo has talked about that all year. The 2-guard position in general has a long way to go, especially on the defensive side of things. But I think he has been rounding out on the offensive side. We saw some good minutes from Trey Fort as well. And then Jordan Scott just continues to do the right thing. I know Izzo has said multiple times he's, flirted with starting him at the 2-guard position. I still don't think, I still believe that, whether it's Kerr or, one of the other, guys you can throw in at the 2, Trey or Jordan Scott, I still would like Divine to go back to that 6-man role, running that, kind of second unit. And then, still having some minutes with Jeremy. I just don't like it starting. I just don't want that to be the starting lineup. That can be the closing lineup, or, you kind of ride who's hot at the end of the game. But, I still wish that switch would be made. I don't think it will. Izzo's not one to, kind of switch lineups like that. Especially, unless there's a drastic loss and things start to completely go downhill. But, obviously you hope that doesn't happen too, but I still, that's where I still believe they should go for that starting 2-guard position. Carson Cooper, after a couple tough games a week or 2 ago, he's really come on the last 2 games. It has been incredible, career high last game. And, at times over this West Coast road trip, there was definitely swings where, Carson definitely kept them in the game. And I thought he had his best game as a Spartan last time out. Cohen Carr, I thought he had his best game as a Spartan last time out as well. So, see him continue to continue to build on that. Like I said, especially over these next 2 as they move in before they get into that school down the road next Friday. But in this one, when we look at Maryland on Bart Torvik has them at number 112 in the country, 126 adjusted efficiency offense, 109th adjusted efficiency defense. We talked about their 3-point percentage, 232nd in the country, 310th 3-point percentage defense, 2-point defense towards the bottom on offense for 2-point percentage, should I say, 310th, back end of the middle of the pack, 248th 2-point percentage defense, assist rate 336. We talked about that as well. And then when you look at Michigan State on Bart Torvik has them as the number 12 team in the country. AP has them at number 10 currently. 63rd adjusted efficiency offense, still been floating there for the last week. Bart Torvik has them at the number 2 adjusted efficiency defense. I believe Ken Palm still has them at the number 1 defense in the country overall. And obviously their defense has just been what has carried them all year. But I do think the offense, and particularly the half-court offense, is getting a lot better as the season's moving along. They're 97th in 3-point percentage on offense, 31st 3-point defense, 102nd 2-point percentage, on offense and 36 2-point defense percentage. Overall, still third assist rate. They've been in that top 7 basically all year. So yeah, that's kind of where we're sitting at for this game. As I said, the next two you're double-digit favorites in this one. Bart Torvik has this as a 78-60 Michigan State win at home. So like I said, kind of the next two games, get Jackson Kohler back rolling. Continue to build more confidence out of that 2 position, whatever you're doing there. And I think keep those freshmen, rolling and learning. I thought they had a pretty good road trip overall. And yeah, that's what we're looking for in this one. But we'll be back after this one for a recap, obviously. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.